Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including The Promised Neverland, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
Indy Potter.
Hello.
And April Collins.
Hi there.
So yes, we're talking episode 10 of The Promised Neverland, 13/1/46. That aired yesterday in Japan, and we cover every week of The Promised Neverland here at the Overly Animated Podcast. Find us at overlyanimated.com. Search for us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or our YouTube is youtube.com/overlyanimated. Spoilers for this and all previous episodes of The Promised Neverland. This is episode 10 we're getting into. Michelle, what did you think of this episode?
I mean, I liked this episode more than the last two. I just want to see the next part though, because it's like the biggest cliffhanger ever. Also, we're down one good boy, so rip Norman. Rip. It needs to be said. But I mean, yeah, it's been interesting seeing Emma and Ray just defeated, or like spoilers for the end of the episode, seemingly defeated. I don't know. But, and I also appreciate that we've highlighted, Mama a little bit more. Like you can see like when Norman asks her, like, are you happy? And she has that moment. And then when she's trying to consolidate Emma in a really twisted way, and it doesn't really work, but you can tell she does seem to care to some extent that Emma is just like grieving and in this terrible situation. So I liked all that. I think it's like a pretty all-around strong episode for the season, and I'm definitely pumped for the finale. At this point, I don't know how many more episodes we're going to have this season. Is it going to be 12 or is it going to be 11?
12, 2 more.
12? 2 more. Okay, that's cool. Well, I'm excited for them.
Okay. She says knowingly, but yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll just deviate from the manga entirely. Be like, nah, bro, we want to make our own story.
They could. We'll see. Andy, what did you think?
I don't want to say I liked this episode, because that doesn't seem like the right word. This episode was really hit well for me in a lot of the ways that it was trying to hit me well. I will say the weakest part is that it's hard to believe that Norman is dead when we don't see a body, when the show was very willing to show us gore earlier in the series. So I'm not sure if Norman's actually dead. That said, they could just show his body later when they escape, which would be really, really like messed up. But yeah, I'm not sold on him being dead quite yet. That said, I really was sold on Ray and Emma being just completely downtrodden. Like they were just so. There was just this air of like nothing. Like there's no way to succeed here. They're in a no-win situation, and I really liked how they did that, how they built up to that, and there was actually a time skip like I predicted last week, which is weird.
Good job.
Yeah, like you guys even said it would feel weird, and you guys were right that it did feel weird that we jumped like a month and a half into the future. But we did that, and I really liked them saying the scene where, not liked, again, that's not the right word. I think the scene where they said goodbye to Norman was really good as well. Everything from like the where they eat their meals to the walk down to the gate, like all that whole connected. Those two scenes were really, really good. I really liked them.
Nice. April, what'd you think?
So first off, I just have to preface it by saying that because you know how they show episode titles before you like watch the episode, like whenever you're like, oh yeah, this is the show I'm going to queue up. So I remembered that the episode titles are dates, and I immediately freaked out when I saw the title, and I was like, what happened? And then so my first time watching it, everything just hit me like all over the episode, and I legitimately was crying the entire time, like all 22 minutes or whatever it is. I was just like crying because everything like hit home for me. Like I was totally like in the mood of the episode, and I love what I say. I love crying, guys. I love when an episode can like just like emotionally charge me that way. And that I'm like feeling everything that like the characters are feeling, and like I'm so like invested in what's going on. So for me, this episode just like hit home. Like it was a home run for me. I didn't know what, like, I had my initial like freak out because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, and we had all of like these predictions from last week's episode and everything like that. But I have to say that Mom was like the standout character of this episode for sure.
Yeah.
Like every scene that she was in, like it was beautiful for me. And again, that's like terrible word choice, but because this episode is so sad. But like every word that she said, like that came out, like even like her like threatening Emma, I was just like like took my breath away. And I really enjoyed, like, this might be my second favorite episode, like to the first one. Like that's how high it is for me. And the time skip did feel like weird, but I think that there's really like there are worse ways they could have done it, and I think this one like played out really nicely. And I'm not convinced that Norman is dead, even though I was crying over it the entire time. But I'm not convinced he's dead, simply because, like what Andy said about how they're not afraid to show us a body. So we don't see a body; we see him go into a room, which doesn't. And like we saw Connie die, we saw Sister Crone die, so there's like no way that like Norman is dead. I refuse to believe it. But yeah, I guess I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, that's very high praise. I do think it's really good. I like this. This is what I want. I don't want jumping around scene to scene doing a million different things like we're having earlier in the show. This is a very focused, emotionally consistent, and thematic episode of television. It's just very good, and it's like this singular unit that knows what it's doing. It's all about Norman dying and Emma, in quotes, and Emma and Ray's reactions to that. I think the time skip works. I think so. I think the shot of Emma with like leaves falling on her, this is like representative of the time skip. Like they are, depressed and dealing with it, and time is passing around them, and I think it's handled pretty well in the episode. But yeah, it's just very focused. I wasn't necessarily like emotionally hit hard by this or anything, but I like appreciate what it's doing, and at least fourth best I think of the season. Here's my hot take. Norman's definitely dead. 100% convinced he's dead.
What?
Rip Norman. Rip Norman.
Maybe you just like saying Rip Norman.
I do. Yeah, this is Rip Norman. This is the eulogy of Norman, this podcast. Because he's 100% dead. There's no way he could be alive.
I didn't prepare anything.
I
said I was going to.
Yeah. I think, and I definitely agree with Andy, though, that what they did is extremely dangerous by just leaving it ambiguous as to whether he died. It's just such a distracting thing for the audience that some people aren't going to be able to have the ending of this episode, brilliant as it was, hit for them emotionally, just because they're like, show us what happened to Norman. We know he's alive. Show it to us. Like, that's the reaction the audience is going to have. So that's why you don't really do this type of thing. I think the episode's good despite that, and I assume that they are doing something interesting with Norman here, so there's a reason that they did that.
Like, Norman was surprised when the door was open, and I don't think he would be surprised if it was just like a demon. Like, there's
he also
didn't seen a demon before.
Seems scared too, though, which doesn't bode well for whatever.
No, it's not good what's happening to him, but I don't think he's. Maybe dead is the wrong word. I don't think what happened to him is what happened to Connie and Crone. I think that's the better way to put what I'm expecting.
Well, those certainly didn't see what happened to him, like what happened to those two, which was pretty similar. I
think he's being used for other purposes, and we can speculate more.
Okay, well, let's start there, because that's the big thing of the episode.
Okay, so something that I took note of was that when Mom's like consoling Emma, she says, I want to recommend you to be a mom of this farm. You'll live on, you'll have a kid, you'll like go to training, and then she like finishes out like, and then you'll come back here as a sister or a mom. And I was like, oh, so like the mothers and the sisters actually have children, which is where they get the baby supply. Right, and I'm like, okay, so if they're actually having kids, then that means that there has to be and I don't know if this is like too graphic for this podcast or whatever, but that means there has to be a supply of semen to.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah.
so my guess is like because Norman has, high intelligence, he's athletic, like he's the quote unquote perfect specimen. Like, why would they not?
So you think he walked into the sperm bank? That's what happens.
Oh my god.
Yes.
So, okay, I don't know, like, maybe we can't say this on here, but, like, so like, when you're 12, can you use your sperm? Like, is it fully developed by then? Or is it, like
yes, it's possible. Okay, let's...
premature?
It's possible.
I'm sorry, but that's my theory. Like, why would they let, like, I guess Norman go to waste like that? Because
he's not. I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Like, we've seen adult women, but we haven't really seen any adult men, have we?
Adult man.
we've seen the one guy who dropped the pen.
Yeah.
Okay, so one confirmed
We
adult
move
man.
past- but April, I just want to be clear. You're saying Norman will go to waste unless we get his semen.
Well, in this world,
That's
yes,
what males are
because
good
we
for,
have
okay?
to continue
That's-
to produce babies so that we can
Yep.
have children to harvest and feed the demons. And where do babies come from? And we have confirmed that, like, all of the moms and sisters, like, give birth to children, which means...
April,
this makes sense, I think.
April,
Well, okay, look,
were
I'm
you
not
on
going to
the podcast?
explain the birds and the bees to everybody.
No.
And
But April, the more we're on these podcasts, the more it feels like you're actually on the side of the demons. Like you're actually like,
Yeah, April's like, if I'm thinking like the
Andrew,
demons,
maybe
I need to extract
maybe-
from the... Right, like-
Maybe you gotta think like a demon to beat a demon, you
Yeah.
know?
Ooh.
Maybe April's on the right track.
thank you. I'm just trying to make sense of the world that I've been thrown into.
Yeah.
Look, April's grandma. We established that. Okay. She
Yes,
knows it.
I'm
Exactly.
grandma.
I
in
think
this
it could be grandma on the other side of that door. That's one
Yeah.
option.
Oh.
But so that actually makes sense. So I think like if you're trying to figure out stuff that's happening, like look at what else is presented in the episode because that's what's thematically relevant. So yeah, we reveal that moms have a child before they become a mom, or at least that's what Isabella says. So maybe that's how they have children. Just all potential moms who go to mom school have a kid first, and then they go to mom school, and then the actual moms are selected out of that crop. That's kind of what the implication of what she was saying was. So yeah, then the question is like, where's where's the babies coming from? I mean, I think if the demons wanted to, they could figure this out on their own.
But I think
I don't know. Demons seem to have very different anatomy. I don't think they could just figure that
Well,
out.
But
Science it.
So the other thing that I don't know, I can't remember the name of like the baby that they introduced like way back in the beginning, but there are moments when like Isabella is carrying her and I'm like, why is she carrying Emma? Because she looks almost like Emma. So there has to be like some type of, if they're not like training the males to be dads, then there has to be some type of sperm bank that they're continuously drawing from.
April, what April's
a similar sperm, so she's like a half sister. You think?
half sister.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think what April's theorizing is that the demons are what they're going to do. They're going to take Norman. They're going to chain him up. They're going to keep him prisoner and
What?
occasionally extract his semen. Right? That's what
yeah,
April's saying.
that's what I
They-
assume.
Whoa!
I don't need chains for that.
We don't need shades like that. We're not
Michelle!
colonizing Mars, okay?
That's the issue you had. Just the chains as the
That's
device
the one
to.
problem
Well,
Michelle had.
yeah. Well, because the other thing, the reason why I don't imagine the chains is because, like, from what we've seen, they don't necessarily believe in like prison, like putting people
Yeah.
in like a proper prison, like
More like putting bombs in their chests.
yeah, more like putting bombs in their chests so that they can live freely and happily. So.
Yeah.
With a bomb.
With a bomb in their chest.
Yeah, but at that point, the Norman and other boys would know, though.
Yeah.
They'd know the secret, I
You're
guess.
right.
So
But-
that might defeat the reason to not like chain them up.
But there's an interesting facet of this I don't think we've touched on, that this means that Isabella and Crone both have children.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
is one of our characters Isabella's kid?
Yeah, that's also what I'm kind of hinting at
Yeah.
as well, Dylan.
Ray.
Because 12-year-old Isabella's like 31 or something. I think that might be a little too young because it doesn't. Seem
Technically, you can start having kids depending on whenever the
kids.
Like, it might not necessarily be great for you to have a baby at 13 or 14, but it doesn't mean you can't.
No, I think Andy's saying that's what the demons are doing.
Yeah,
He's
no,
saying
the demons are doing it like right away, and that's messed up. And so I think our kids, Emma, Norman, and Ray, are too young for that.
It just depends on the timing of the mom school. Who knows?
At what point in mom school do you have a kid?
What year program is it? Like, is this a 10-year program?
Yeah. Like, I mean, like if they wait till she's 19, yeah, like it's possible, but I don't think they'd wait till Isabella's 19.
It could. I mean, I think like I think the demons would do whatever is making them the best food product. Yeah. So you probably want to not have the kid at like 13. You probably not want to.
There's a lot of health complications that come with that too. So why would you have a kid why would you have someone have a kid at 13 when you could potentially then lose like that potential like mom or whoever?
Right. But the other point is I don't think they're going to be drawing. They'd be taking from Norman right away either, though. Even if it is possible, I think optimally they would want to wait a little bit. So there's. I'm sure there's something in this. I guess I'm going to use the word society that men are useful at, or they have their place within it. It sounds so bad as I continue to speak, but we're so focused on like the female aspect of the show. Like Emma's like one of our main characters, or is usually our primary focus, and the show sort of revolves around her. And then, of course, there's like this whole like matriarchal sort of system. Like there's sisters, there's moms, there's grandmas. I mean, we don't see like the male side of that. Like, are there brothers? Are there dads? Is there grandpa? Like, what role do they play? I want to know.
Hashtag Find Grandpa 2019.
So it's interesting. What's Norman doing in the meantime, if this is even a thing? I also think there's the possibility of like there's another track. Like there's the mom track, and then maybe that doctor or scientist that we saw, maybe some kids, like male and female, become are like trained to be like science slaves for the demons.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
those
what
are
we're
the
doing with
two genders, scientist and mother.
I think so.
Because
they did like the mothers, or who's teaching whatever. Like there has to be more.
Yeah, because they did talk about Norman. Of the three of them, is just the most like book smart of the three of them.
Yeah, so there's interesting possibilities. I'm kind of on board with the they want to sperm bank Norman.
I call it April theory.
Sperm bank, but I will say I'm looking at the manga, and there is a panel where like while she's talking to Emma on the bed, there's like kind of a flashback of her pregnant, and next to it is this image of like an egg that is clearly being implanted with sperm, and I can't tell if that's like outside of her body, but it does seem to be a very like mechanical kind of like we picked this one egg and this sperm specifically, so it does feel like a very sterile kind of thing. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how the demons would do it. They'd
that's how
they'll have to get both of those things from somewhere. I'm just saying.
Thanks, April.
Okay, so
you're welcome.
This theory is out there now.
April theory.
any other Andy? Any? What was your thought when Norman walked in there? What did you think was happening?
I don't remember anymore because April took control of this conversation.
Sorry.
Chains in the sperm bank.
Wow. Chained up. That was my country, but
I know that was you. It's just very visceral.
This is what we're talking about now. Like, there's nothing else to say.
What if it's Grandma there wants to talk to Norman?
About what?
She's a proposal.
Here's your cup.
I do think it's still possible that Norman is actually just dead. I don't think it's likely, but I do think there actually is a small possibility with this show that he's just dead.
Well, it'd have to be for some reason interesting.
Yeah, it would have to be for
some interesting way.
reason that
Yeah, that he dies in a different way than we were expecting, like not with the flower.
But at some point, if he's dead, they have to show us a body.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, the thing is, like, also, Emma, Norman, and Ray are the most sought after, like, brains on the whole farm. Like, are they really gonna just save him forever? Like, they gotta eat him. Because the demon wants him. The main demon wants that sweet brain. It's waited 12 freaking years for it. I don't know if they can just let him grow up and live, because that's the fanciest brain ever.
They still got Ray.
That's true, but like, why?
They did express interest in
two brains.
Episode 1. They said they wanted to harvest them. So
yeah.
Oh my god!
I don't know. Was April suggesting that they cook sweet brain? Like, is that the variety of brain, sweet and sour brain? Like, or is Michelle?
We don't know how human cuisine works. Maybe
this podcast is going off the rails.
That's fine. There's not a lot in this episode to talk about. So.
Are there brain chefs?
There probably are, right?
Make special brain pans to, like, saute it evenly on. Because brains are kind of round. You need to cook them evenly.
Unless you chop it up. Have you ever seen iZombie? She got really creative with those brains. I'm just saying.
I think that's what they enlisted Norman for, to be a brain chef.
Oh.
I haven't seen him cook. What makes them cook well? Just because he reads books good.
This isn't set up well at all.
You just read they just want someone who follows their intricate instruction for brain preparation well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think they could do that. Why do they need humans to cook the brain? Like,
who knows?
I don't know.
Look,
But
don't question the demon society that we live in.
Yeah, I know, it's true. We're a few years from that, and then, but
it's already begun.
it should be noted that Crone did say there are humans in headquarters, right? So there's and we've seen some of them, but so it's interesting. What will happen with Norman? Will we see it next episode? I think nothing. He's definitely dead. I'm pretty sure he's dead. Okay, so basically the rest of this episode is the Emma and Ray being depressed. The beginning is the cliff thing. We start there, but there is like a potential route. He like logics out that there's a bridge to headquarters they could escape from.
Yes.
And he reveals he was never going to actually run away. He was just like indulging them last week, and he's just wants to give up to make sure everyone else is safe.
Well, I don't think he was just indulging them. I think probably a shred of him really did hope that they could escape, but he went over the wall probably just so that he could report back to them. Because they never.
I was going to say they never got to do an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So
the way he presented it, at least he was like, I was never running away, and I knew that all along. But you could be skeptical of that. I don't know.
The other thing I took from it too is because at this point, I mean, he did make that promise to Ray or whatever, and so I feel like he's like, well, if I die, I don't have to like betray Emma. So,
oh my god, that's so stupid, Norman.
I don't know how much that thing is still in play. That promise that they made.
I'm just trying to justify Norman's
actions. No, it's fair.
I think this makes sense with Norman's motivations. It's incredibly risky if he goes away, and he's calling a lot of attention to them. And he said all he cares about is Emma, so this is the move. I think this makes sense.
This would make the most sense because it wouldn't do them any good for them to not know like what's on the other side of the wall. Or, you know what I mean? Like, to report back. Because then, like, they're just going in blind. And, like, what happens if, like, they go through this whole escape or, like, they attempt to escape without him. And then they come to the cliff and they're like, well, what the heck? We just, like, super, like, screwed ourselves over. That would be worse.
Yeah, so he was never going to report it. He was never going to leave without reporting back. Yeah.
But he wanted to give them that extra information to help them out. And he still wants them to escape, so... Yeah,
so that's makes enough sense, and then we get this this flashback to start to drive these emotions home with
oh god, the flashback.
It was so cute.
They were so cute.
Little Norman's sick, and then Emma's visiting him, and then they have the string phone that they're talking through.
I loved that her hair would like point up.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. They did that like 3 times, and every time it was great.
It was like a Pokemon with the point.
Yeah, it was good.
I also loved that, like, what is it? Like, the mom or Isabella and, like, that interaction, too. She's like, you're just gonna get yourself sick. Like, she's totally, like, genuinely a mother in this moment. And I really appreciated that. And it kind of helps, like, I guess, lead you to believe that maybe she really does potentially care about them and she's not just,
Oh yeah, no, totally. And we get that the most, I think, from her interactions with Emma, because like when the way she talks to her, I think you do get like a little more of this in the manga, but she's basically saying like, stop. Like, I want you should be happy, but you can only be happy if you bind to the system. And look, I'm offering you a way out of it. Don't you want to live?
Well,
gotta give up to live.
The other thing, too, I think that, I guess it, like, hints at her, I guess, having feelings for Emma that are more than just like, hey, I'm harvesting you, is that she even like talks to her like as a prerequisite kind of thing, like, hey, like, I want to recommend you and I want you to live on, is what she's sort of saying, versus like, I'm sure any other like mom or sister like didn't get to know about it beforehand, so they're like totally being like thrown off guard.
Hey, I'm harvesting you.
Hey.
I think with that scene though, it was a sinister tone to everything Isabella was saying, so I don't think it really comes across as concern. Which I think is the case for
sinister. I think it's more just the sinisterness of the situation at hand, right?
No. I mean, yes, but Isabella is
from having to accept that there's only one way you can live, and that way is absolutely terrible.
There's like a big difference between like that conversation and then any other moment, like when she like there's moments when you can tell that she's truly being sinister, like whenever she's like, if you cause another commotion, I'll kill you. Yeah.
Like that is so scarier.
Yeah, like I was like legitimately terrified of Isabella in that moment. But then like whenever she's like talking to her on the bed, like her tone is different. And it seems like she's really trying to, I guess, like offer her like some type of like positive outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
I think the anime has this air of sinisterness to everything Isabella's done for the most part throughout the entire series. I think like that's totally a valid read, that she's telling the truth, that she does have concern about them, especially Emma. But I could see a lot of people walking away from that scene with like, no, Isabella doesn't care. This is what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to get the best person to be a mom. Like I feel like she just broke her leg right away.
But like that is like what makes it so interesting though, because like this entire system works the best when people have to like get rid of their own humanity, a sense of morality. And Mama's like one of the best people. Like Grandma loves her. Like Isabella's at the top of the food chain. She has the best farm. And she got that because she has put away her morality, but she hasn't completely. And in some moments, like you get this sense that like maybe she is concerned for Emma. You can't tell because like if you could, she probably wouldn't be as good at her job and she probably wouldn't be a mama anymore. But that's what makes it so interesting. It's like in this social construction that tries so hard to like crush your sense of self out of you, like she, in her own twisted way, because she has bought into the system to survive, she is trying to give what she truly believes is the best option to Emma. And when Emma refuses and she gets kind of like really frustrated with her, she's like, fine, then just like moan and die. It's like she's annoyed that in her mind, like Emma's giving up her one chance at living, whereas Emma's like fighting for something so much harder, to create a new path of life that's like, as far as we know, unheard of, to like escape and survive and to not be like one thing, a mama. Like that's a really big deal. So I love this. I feel like there's a lot that's being said, even if it isn't like really obviously being said, just based on how we know that this system works. And that's why it's such a good moment. I do think she cares, but I think it's just such a twisted system that the way she cares also has to be really twisted. And that's like what's so disturbing about it.
Well, and I think the flaw in Isabella's approach to trying to convince Emma is that she kind of comes at her from a more of like a logical standpoint, when Emma's a very emotionally emotionally driven person. And so I think that and maybe like Isabella is also a very logical individual, and so she's just trying to appeal to her in a way that makes sense to her, where I feel like if she had like approached Emma and said, like, hey, like, I want to recommend you to be a mother, you know, like, haven't I given you a happy life even despite the circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you not also want to give that happiness to other people, like, and give them all of like the love and the care and whatever else, you know, like I guess the happy life. Yeah. So I think that maybe if she had to come at her with that versus like, look, you can live on kind of situation, because that's not what Emma's concerned about. She's not concerned about herself surviving. Mm-hmm. She's like afraid for everyone else, like all the other kids. So
absolutely.
And I think that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem with like that conversation, is because Isabella, despite being as cunning and as smart as she is, she like failed in the one moment that she could have truly shined.
Yeah, and again, that speaks to the whole system, because they if you go to mom school, they pit you against every other girl there. Not everyone can be a mom. That's literally like the 1% of the women at mom school. So, and like the way she treats Sister Crone, like she doesn't think of anyone else as an ally, whereas Emma is like so selfless. She wants to bring every freaking child with her when she escapes. So they're really at odds in terms of the things they care about. And yeah, no, April, you're so right. Like her saying like, you know, give up on everything else, just be a mom. Like that's like, it's not that Emma like hates the idea of being a mom. Probably she's like, no, like I can't give up because all these people are counting on me and they need me and I can't like lose for them. So that's why she refuses. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not about the mom. It's about everyone else on the line. And she isn't willing to give up on them. So I think that's really awesome. I think it's a really good moment. Like, I don't know, this felt really strong for me in the manga. And there is like more internal stuff that you don't get. Just you only get what they like actually say to each other. But more or less, like, it is like, I honestly feel for Isabelle. Like, she's not a good person. But like, She like what she represents in this system is like what makes it so tragic. Because like she probably like if she had been in a different world, she probably could have been a pretty cool, amazing, smart lady. But like for this, like she has to use all of her powers for evil, and she's forced to only think about herself because, like, again, yeah.
That's all she's been trained to think about.
Because that's all they want them to think. Because if they actually like unified, like they could be an actual threat to the demons, probably. So Emma just like represents everything at odds with like this entire structure that's set up for her. And I think that's really cool that she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure everyone else is also safe. That's the thing that makes Emma stand out. Like even against Norman and Ray, like they like yeah, like it'd be nice to take everyone along, but Emma's like, no, like we're doing it though. It's gonna happen. I don't know how, but it's gonna happen.
I'll find a way.
Yeah, that is a lot of cool stuff that I don't really think has been presented in the show in this episode. But I'd like the reading. The other thing to bring into this is that Norman, the thing with Isabella, Norman asking Isabella if she's happy. I think,
and she she has like a huge lapse in her like composure in that moment.
Yeah.
So, are you happy? Like.
Andy, what's your read on Isabella? So for me, because I want to counter the point here, I got sinister from Isabella during that conversation with Emma. How'd you read her response to Norman and her offering to Emma there?
I think it's kind of complex. I don't think she's purely good or bad in this whole episode. I think that she's clearly the antagonist. That's kind of obvious, but don't think that scene in the bedroom is at all really caring for Emma, or not at all, but like it's mostly just she wants a new mom and Emma's the best candidate. But like it's hard to reconcile her not being at all caring for the kids when you look at episode 1 and when she's all alone, she's hugging Connie's picture to her chest, like things like that. We have a couple of little moments where she's alone and she shows some kind of caring towards these kids. And so I don't know if that's enough to really say that she cares a lot for these kids, but she has done a couple of things when she's alone that makes it seem like she does. But
I really like those reads from before. It's just I don't know if that's.
I don't have enough.
I think we're giving anime a lot of credit here. I don't know if that's what we've been presented.
I apologize, but not really.
No, don't apologize.
But, okay, so another thing to bring up too is that in her secret closet, she has all
She
of
kept all the
those.
toys.
But
Yeah, she
there's
has all
also
those toys.
there's also a read for that though, that she like hides the toys and like cycles them out as people leave.
Right,
You know what I mean?
but okay, so you figure she's been doing this for how long? And if there's
We don't know.
like,
Maybe
yeah.
10 or 12 years. Like, I don't
Okay.
think she's been doing this for 20 years.
So like if we send away a kid every 2 months and or whatever rate that they like ship them out, then you're averaging like 6 kids a year. So that she would in theory have like 60 toys in there, but she doesn't have 60 toys in that closet. She had like only a select few, and one of which was like Connie's bunny. But like there wasn't 60 toys in there. So I couldn't necessarily be like, oh, she's just hiding everything, because she could easily just dispose of all of them. Or she could just as easily keep all of them. But I feel like it's more of a risk to bring things back that mean something to you versus like.
Totally, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
so-
That's a really good point.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think what we're saying, the anime has presented a lot of things that can be interpreted one way or the other. With Isabella, the toys is a great example. I'm not saying that what you guys were saying was like wrong, and that's how Isabella's approaching it. My point's just like that. I feel like the anime has certainly not been clear that this is what is coming from Isabella.
The
I feel
anime
like,
is
Oh, no, they're
definitely not
definitely-
being as clear as it could be. And that's why I'm so happy that April's making these connections, like, despite that, because it is a lot more clear in the manga. And for them to, kind of like half give things to support stuff like Isabella's character and then just like not include other things, I find it impressive that we can still have this conversation.
there's been a lot there in spite of it. I
In
think we're
terms of,
probably
like,
building
her
towards something.
caring about kids. I mean, let's remember she's been doing this for years and years. Have you ever been to a retirement home? Like, you can't, I did over a summer work at a retirement home, and we weren't allowed to name the people. We called them by their room numbers because at any moment one of them could die.
Wow.
No, it's for real. And you're not allowed to get attached to them. And I think this is a similar situation where it's like you have to kind of, put yourself in a mind place where you don't get attached to these kids because you know that it's only a certain amount of time you can have with them. And I think for Isabella to kind of reconcile that, her mentality is like what April's saying. She's like, well, yeah, they're going to die, but while they're here, they're not going to want for anything. They're going to have clean clothes, and they're going to be taken care of when they're sick, and they're going to be fed like whole meals every day. And they're going to have friends and have fun. And if that's the best they get, at least I can offer them that for a certain amount of time. And that's how she reconciles with all the awful stuff. But to me, that doesn't take away from the fact that she probably does care about them. But she also is really holding that at arm's length because she knows that they're going to be gone eventually. And she can't afford to have feelings about that because new kids are going to come in and they're going to die too. So from that position, I mean, I honestly do think she wouldn't recommend Emma if one, she didn't. I mean, Sister Crone probably would have made a pretty good mom. She's pretty smart. She's pretty crafty. But she was already planning for Emma to be the replacement. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that she watched her grow up, and she did, even in a fake, distanced way, form a relationship with her. So, I mean, it's not a great relationship, but I do think she honestly does care about Emma as much as anyone in her position, given what she has to do in her role, could.
Yeah. It's a good summary. Let's bring in the last data point from Isabel in this episode. We can talk about the scene of Norman leaving and saying goodbye to everyone, where we have one more Isabel thing. But quick before that, we have to bring in Phil here because Norman.
Oh my God.
Norman asked Phil to take care of Emma when she's gone. Andy, what was your reaction to that line?
I am so pissed about Phil.
Oh, you're pissed. How come?
Because
he's mad at Steve, not at the show.
it's Steve.
What did he say?
He trolled me so hard, and I hate him for it.
Wait, did he say Phil's gonna die or something?
No, he just, every time he talked on the podcast, he's like, Phil's a big deal, and now all I can do is see Phil and think about Steve.
I'm convinced though. Phil has done. Andy, we've had a consistent Phil presence the last.
That's the worst part.
What is the show doing with Phil? He's everywhere.
Why is Phil everywhere?
I don't remember him being this prominent. Like,
He's in
I
every episode. He's in more episodes. He's going to be in more episodes than Norman at this rate.
I think he's like, he might, I mean, he probably doesn't have as much screen time as Don and Gilda, but it feels like it. Like, it feels like he's more of a character than them.
I might, because he's been in every single episode. I'm not exaggerating.
Why is Phil need to take care of Emma? Why is he like...
Why did Norman ask this of Ray or Dawn and Gilda? Like, he asked it of Phil of all 37 kids.
Phil's a big deal. He's a big deal.
Emma's closer to Ray. You think he would have asked Ray? That was a little
Phil.
weird.
That was just for Andy.
Phil, you have the same eye color as me. I need you to take care of Emma.
I guess maybe Phil is thematically supposed to be mini Norman. Maybe that's the point of that scene.
Maybe.
I don't know about that. All you know about Phil is that he's very upbeat and he's like...
They said he was smart in that one time, and...
he's smart, but...
Also, I low-key got even more upset when Phil got really upset about Emma being sad. So.
Oh, it was so sad. Phil's so precious.
Because they notice that they're sad.
Mm-hmm. Phil is the emotional core of this show, I'm just saying. Really, it's Phil's reactions that drove this up. No. Then this whole thing of Norman's Emma's tackling Norman, and
oh yeah,
Norman almost says he loves Emma. That was my read on that.
Okay, that really annoyed me. I feel like the anime definitely wants to make them more of a thing. All of that stuff, but oh, you're so naive and blah blah. But that's why I like you, and that's why I have to do.
I didn't read that as romantic though.
He says that in his brain, but he doesn't say that to her face. And I appreciate the manga for holding back for a hot second because dude, just whatever.
All my ships die in the show.
Whatever.
I'm just saying,
everyone dies in this show, Dylan.
Rip Emma X Norman. It was beautiful. This was reminiscent of Rayla and Callum in the latest season of
Yes.
Spoilers. So there was parallels. What a ship parallel there. Let's get the fan art going. Isabella. Oh yeah. Then here. Isabella's threatening to kill Emma though. She's yeah. And then Norman says goodbye to Emma and says don't give up. So yeah, she threatens to kill Emma. So that's another thing.
That's fine.
We talked about it, but I just wanted to make sure we got that
job in her life if Emma didn't leave. I mean, she's put her trust in this system. She's got to play the cards, man.
At the very least, she's very good at presenting herself this way to the children.
Yes.
And totally. I think we are seeing through their eyes for a large part. So we're seeing her as this menacing figure.
Well, actually, going back to when he asks her if she's happy, I mean, you were asking Andy, how did he read that? I honestly read it as, when her face slips like that, I think that's, the most surprised she's honestly been the whole show. And I think the surprise for her just came from the absurdity of that question itself. How could he possibly think she's happy with this life? But then she's like, oh yeah, of course. But I think that face kind of says it all.
I think it's a psychology thing too. Yeah. Because a lot of the times, you're oh yeah, you may be content in what's going on, but it's not until someone else draws your attention to the situation at hand that you realize oh, this is actually good, or oh, this is actually bad. And so I think that's sort of Norman trying to bring her back into that light, by saying because that's the thing that she continuously preached to them, I wanted to give you guys a happy life. That's what I strive to do, even despite the circumstances. And then for him to turn it back around on her, because I think, doesn't he even say to her I was happy? I know he tells Emma and Ray, but I feel like he told her too. And then for him to be I was happy. Are you happy? If it was me, I'd be oh, am I happy? I don't know.
Yeah, it's this is just not how Isabella thinks about the world, so that just really threw her off because it's happy. This isn't about happy. This is about surviving.
Right.
Yeah. So it's that's what Emma and crew are, I guess, still fighting for, is not having to think on those terms. They're approaching it from this. And we'll see. Norman's dead though, so they failed, right? He's definitely
they didn't fail. They said in the episode they didn't give up.
Okay, so let's get to the end. So we've covered everything except for the end.
You forgot the end, Dylan.
I did not forget the end. I was slowly working there.
Dylan, before we move past this, I just want to say one thing. I think the episode really is trying to hammer home that Norman's going to send contact back, because the one that he took in his suitcase was that cup string thing. Like, that's thematic of him contacting.
Okay.
I could see that. I mean, I thought it was like, this is the thing that reminds him of Emma the most, and it's like, okay, here's what he takes with him.
True. That's true. That it could be a visual motif.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Andy.
it, but I think it's
He's
like
gonna send pictures and books.
Yeah, something like that.
He also was. I want to put Ray was reading a lot at the towards the end.
Was he actually really
Yes.
reading, or because I sort of took that as like him trying to like battle his own depression, and so he's trying to so he knows that he loves reading, so he's trying to distract himself. But if you notice that there's like sort of all of these piles of like opened books, but none of them are really like, because I feel like if you finished a book you wouldn't just leave it open on a random page, and so I feel like he was really just trying to distract himself from his feelings by like reading a book, and he's like, okay, well, this book's failing me, so I'm going to move on to the next one, and then this one's failing me, so I'm moving on to the next one, kind of situation. I just took that as like a sign of as to how severe his depression actually was.
But I think the end of the episode confirms that it's all a show.
Been thinking about it. Yeah. Like maybe it was research.
Like I think he, like, there's this shot where Mom looks into the library and
she gets a really satisfied smile, right? Like, good, he's given up.
It feels like he did that, specifically that motion for Mom. Like, to make her think that he's completely, like, gone.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So they're depressed for a while, then it's we skipped, like, a month and a half, and it's Ray's brat. I don't know why, as April pointed out, I don't know why the title of this episode is for the, like, last 5 minutes, because most of the episode takes place in November.
Yeah.
But that's very weird.
Which is why I initially freaked out, because we've always started the episode in the day that we were in.
Right,
so.
Right. It was,
not all the time. A couple of episodes we haven't.
We've sort of, like, we were at, like, that midnight threshold. So, or that late night.
But then it's Ray's birthday tomorrow. He's about to be shipped off, and then we get this exchange between Ray and Emma. Ray says, "You haven't actually given up, have you, to Emma?" And then Emma's like gives this menacing smirk, is how I'd describe it.
Menacing smirk.
Yeah,
I like it.
Okay,
I like the description.
So what's our reads on Emma and where Emma and Ray are coming from in this last scene? Andy, what did you think?
I thought that even though I knew there were 2 episodes coming, this was still surprising to me, which I think means that this worked really well for me. That even though I knew that there were 2 episodes coming up, that I was still surprised that these guys still have a plan. And I have no idea what we're doing, which happens every week. I have no idea where we're going any week, but I'm still really, really excited to see what their plan is and see what we're doing. Because it feels like they actually have finally tricked Mom, and that seems new.
It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
April, what was your read on it?
My first time, I don't know. I didn't really catch a read, but then upon the second time, I took it as kind of like maybe for like the last month and a half, they've really been like playing Mom, especially after.
Oh, we could get like a flashback then to all of that.
Yeah, they could explain it.
Yeah, because I feel like if Emma had truly given up, she wouldn't have gone through the notion of hiding the little device that Ray made to disable the tracking devices. And so, because if she had like truly given up, like what was the point of hiding that from Mom? Like you know what I mean? And so then I think like based off the conversation that she had with Isabella, she was able to formulate a new plan, because in my head, I'm thinking that Isabella is still going to recommend Emma for like to become a sister or a mom, despite, how Emma feels, because she's in that role. She can make those decisions. And so I think that they're almost counting on Emma, like on Mom doing that. And then they've been formulating a plan around that. So that's my best.
I guess the issue is Ray's ship date is before Emma's.
Yeah.
I think the big tell after looking back on this episode is there are 2 things we don't know about, and that's where is the pen and the note from Crone.
The stupid pen. It's still not been revealed
yet. Yes.
What was the piece of paper that Ray was looking at?
Yes.
Oh, you still don't know what that is.
Yeah, and then there's the other thing is that Emma said that Ray was upstairs while everyone else was downstairs with Norman. I think he was doing something while they were all downstairs with Norman saying
Yeah,
goodbye.
I don't think that he didn't just want to see him off. I mean, I feel like he was planning something.
Yeah, and then they spent the whole month and a half tricking Mom into thinking Ray wasn't doing anything upstairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
It
a
made
good
him
point.
think that
Ray,
he was
Ray
really just
wasn't there
depressed.
during the sending off. That's what you're saying in this episode.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was doing something.
So that's why Phil was the fill-in instead of Ray.
The fill in. Ha ha ha.
The other thing too is that they specifically like called it out by Mom asking, "Well, where's Ray?"
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I think normally
Interesting.
she would be really suspicious of that, but then they spent a month and a half acting really depressed. And
Yeah.
I think that was
So
on purpose,
maybe they know. Maybe they know Norman's not dead. Maybe there's some master plan.
maybe.
And Isabella's actually in on
I think
it
they think
I
too.
don't think Emma would have tried to cut his ear thing in public in front of everyone if that.
They're acting. They're acting.
I will also say that was a really
Oh.
great move by Emma. Like, even though he didn't let it happen, like, I think that was really
Yeah.
good by her.
It was good.
I thought it was really brave, and I know I agree with Norman. It was very reckless, but I
It's
thought it
kind
was
of
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the trajectory, if this is the case, next episode we'll have some flashback thing reveals Emma and Ray have been planning stuff the entire time, and they start some sort of actual resistance, and then like in the finale they like run into Norman accidentally, who's like in headquarters, if they're like in headquarters or something, and he's like actually alive
I
and
imagine
doing
him in
some
like
role.
glasses and a lab coat.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Like a 12-year-old in glasses in a
And a
lab coat.
You can see it now. They run into the room, and Norman's chained up, and
Oh,
he's
Getting
No!
it, Norma.
mid extraction. No, just kidding.
Training
But
yourself.
yeah.
My god. Are we still talking about this?
really good theory, Dylan.
Yeah, I've ruined your. I flanderized your theory, April, for sure.
Thanks a lot.
No, so now Steve and April have ruined this show for me.
Oh. Well, maybe
Uh,
Phil's gonna die next, so then you can just be like going in fresh for everyone else.
Yeah, Phil's the only one that's gonna survive.
No. Everyone's gonna die, and then the next
Cruel
series.
twist of fate.
Yeah. Okay, so this is exciting. We have a lot, and is Isabella's second weakness that's made on the paper, right?
Yeah.
The pen, the note, the box. Yeah. What's everything's still in play. We'll see.
Oh,
A lot
also Minerva. We need to get back to that.
I'm not convinced anything's happening. There,
I'm less worried about Minerva. If we don't learn about that stupid pen, I will be so upset.
the pen is the Minerva thing could have just been a one episode
Also,
thing. This
what
pen,
was-
No, everything's
Under
intentional.
Or what was under Ray's bed?
the bed, yeah.
That's the other thing that drives me
the
crazy.
device, the ear cutting device, was under the bed. That's what I thought.
No,
Mm,
because
no.
Ray wasn't able to complete it until after he got the camera.
Yeah.
So I want to know what was under
something
his bed.
something convinced Norman, right? Is that the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That made him really
Oh,
Anyway,
I don't
we'll
know.
see if it
There's
all
so many
comes
secret
together.
things that I don't remember all the secret things.
There's too many. It's too much.
yeah.
I don't think all of them are going to be explicitly paid off, but the pen is like number one. That's going
Yes.
to be a thing.
It's stupid pen.
Hey, Michelle, final thoughts.
I'm excited for. I feel like a lot's probably gonna happen. I hope a lot happens because if it's just like a whole flashback, like and we plotted everything for 20 minutes, that's gonna be a lot. But I feel like a lot's probably gonna happen, and I'm really excited. I do think like it's pretty clear that the anime is kind of picking and choosing what it wants to highlight, and in that there's a lot left that's not translated as strongly. But I do think like there's gonna be some cool stuff to see regardless
Ooh,
of that. So
Ooh.
Like it. Okay, cool stuff in the next two episodes, promises Michelle. April, final thoughts.
I'm so pumped for these next two episodes. Like,
yay.
especially after this episode, because this episode like really like revitalized. Like, this has to be one of my favorite shows that I'm watching right now. So
Wow,
I'm watching
Okay.
a lot of shows right now. So
I like it.
That's high
Yeah.
praise.
April, Star and Ladybug are also on. I mean,
yeah, I
you
know. It's like these three. I'm like super pumped for.
Wow. Okay. There you go. I mean, there's not many other shows airing actively, so that's
Yeah.
basically it. But it's top three. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Of currently airing animated shows that we cover out of
Mm-hmm.
3. Yeah. No, there's probably Craig other stuff also. Okay. Andy, final thoughts.
Just I'm really excited. I agree with April. Like, I'm excited every single week for this show to air, and I'm gonna try to block out some of the conversation we had today while I watch next week.
No, just imagine Norman chained up, right? Going once you click play, imagine that.
That's what he meant.
Yeah, no, I should. That's how you get in the right mindset. Like, I hit play. I visualize the start the episode.
Visualize what you don't want to happen. So just think of Phil right away.
Oh my god, yeah, think of Phil. Think of Phil aged up a bunch.
Deserve this. It's not his fault. You know, people are going to be talking him up so early.
It is his fault. He's sinister.
Yeah.
He's a demon in disguise. I'm going back to that.
Him and Isabella are clearly in cahoots with Grandma and the demons.
With Grandma, they're all evil together.
Mm-hmm. And the guy with the pen.
Oh my god.
Okay. Yeah, I did. So I did really like this week, but I'm more than ready for something to happen here.
Yeah.
I know Norman died, but it was a slow episode.
I'm starting to like believe you've been secretly reading the mangas and you know something we don't, and you're just like,
Norman's actually dead. I'm telling you.
You're like,
Dylan is trolling.
I know.
I wouldn't dare. No, yeah. Looking very much looking forward to the finale stuff happening. Yeah, this is. I will say the show's been good. We really need a strong finish. But sounds like might be. Yeah, I've been hearing people hyping it up too. We'll be back for the next 2 weeks. Next week I might not be hosting someone else, but then I'll be back for the finale. And yep, so stay tuned for our future Promise Neverland coverage. Subscribe to not miss anything at overlyanimated.com, overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or youtube.com/overlyanimated. Talk about it with us on our Discord at overlyanimated.com/discord. And support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Nicholas, aka Nickelodeon, and thanks as always to our patron executive producers John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. We have a bunch of other stuff at overlyanimated.com, including the shows we basically just mentioned, so I won't plug it again. And there you go. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.